So today we have ourselves a SOG field knife, and we're gonna do a nice little test with it. See how well it hands up to some abuse, shall we? Alrighty, so we're gonna talk about this SOG field knife. So it says field knife, so I'm guessing, survival situations, you go out to the mountains somewhere. It's something you're gonna throw in your backpack and you're gonna rely on to, survive with, more or less. If it came to that. So we're gonna start out with a sharpness test just to see how sharp it is. We're gonna use some fancy technology here called cardboard. Well. It doesn't seem to have the best edge. I mean, it seems pretty sharp, but as you can tell, the cuts aren't super clean, which, I mean, you want a clean cut if you have a knife like this, because say you have to go and skin something or cut an animal into pieces, you want a sharp knife if you gotta cut something, right? You want it to be sharp. It seems to have certain parts which are sharper than others. Like this belly that it has, this little bit here, is not very sharp compared to down here, or even the tip is sharper. So that is not so good for what you want for a field knife. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and try it with some rope and see how it works. Alright, that was one pass. Kind of disappointing. You might as well be better off buying a butter knife. Good heavens. So, it's not good at cutting rope. It's kind of trashy. The more you know. And as I was looking at it a little bit more, I could see a lot of the reason why it was getting stuck in the cardboard is the fact that it is pretty thick compared to the grind. It has a hollow grind, so it was hanging up on the cardboard because it's a fat boy. And I wanted to mention that it comes with this fancy little sheath, which is not actually fancy, it's kind of shit. But it has itself this nice little section for you to put rope or something in to cut, which is real nice, except for the fact that most rope isn't going to fit in a cut that small, and the fact that we just found out that this knife is about as sharp as a rock, so not very effective. But let's just give it away anyways. Let's see. Yeah, that was effective. Let's try it again, shall we? So no, that's not going to work. Crap design to try and put. It looks like an old seatbelt cutter, but on a fixed blade, which I just think is kind of funky. Oh well. Okay, now we're gonna see how good it is at whittling. Gotta get wood. Anyways, we're gonna see if this butter knife is good at turning sticks into firewood. Okay, well, I guess it can do one thing properly, more or less. So it'd be good if you're trying to build yourself some fire starter and you don't have like grass or something, you could always whittle it, I guess. And good to make yourself some good stays if you're, in the middle of the mountains and you're trying to build booby traps for strangers. That could also help. And to build spears, because why wouldn't you? So I guess it does a lot of things wrong, but surprisingly, it can actually whittle some wood, which is good to know. So now, we're going to do some real heavy-duty testing to see if it'll break under immense pressure or not. First, we're going to start off with a good old tip test. We're going to throw it in this stump that we have here, and we're going to give it a good couple of twists and tugs and see if we can snap the tip off. If not, we're going to move on to some more abusive techniques until it breaks. So we have our trusty old stump. Now let's see if we can break the tip off of our knife. That sounded cheap. So surprisingly so far, it hasn't broken, but we're still working. You see that bend? I don't trust it. So, we have ourselves a slight failure. Come in close, I'll show you. Look at that. That's awful straight now, isn't it? I don't think you want your field knife to bend like that, but I could be wrong. So now that we have our good old twisted blade, we're gonna see if it can go back in its sheath now. That's surprising. And this sheath is pretty cheap. I mean, you can just throw it on the ground and it comes out. So we're not gonna rely on the sheath for much of anything. But I am surprised that it goes back in. Yeah, SOG, I think they might have messed up this time. All right, now, we're going to baton this bent, warped piece of metal into a piece of firewood that we have sitting here with this other piece of wood to see if we can get ourselves some kindling to start fires. Because, you know, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna need to start a fire at some point. All right, we're gonna get right into it. That was pretty sketchy. We got a little bit of a piece off though. We're gonna try again. So you don't have a whole lot of blade length, so if you're gonna get into a thicker piece, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Like getting those first two chunks off, it was fine because the blade is not very thick, so we can get through it. But as you start going through the piece of wood, you're gonna have less and less blade to actually hit as you go through this piece of wood. So it's not going to split very much going down the road. But we're going to keep going until we can't anymore. See, that's my point exactly. You have a piece of wood that's bent that's shaped like this, not bent. And try to hit it with another piece that's, you know, not necessarily small. But we have a very small surface area here to smack on and try and get this to go down. Because you don't want to smack here because your hand's right here. That's a bad idea. You want to hit this so you can get it all the way through. And you can't hit the top because, well, then you just look retarded. Don't do that. All in all, if you have a very small piece of wood, it's fine. If you have a big piece of wood, well, then you need a bigger knife. Don't use that one. So now after we've done our tip test and our lack of a splitting firewood test, we're going to try a durability test. I'm going to whip this bitch as fast as I can and as hard as I can into this tree until something fun happens. So. Well, that was just lucky out in the first drop. As you can tell, it doesn't stick very well. We're also going to see as we go if we can get this bend to get a little bit worse and to see how much this rubber handle can withstand before something gives. So far, nothing super eventful, but we're going to try a little bit more. That was pretty satisfying, I ain't gonna lie, that one. That one hit the spot. So now after we decided to beat it up a little bit more, we can tell that it's a piece of metal that just doesn't break. If you do look here though, we're getting some scuffing and some tearing over here on the rubber. If you can see, it's actually coming off of the knife now, which is not necessarily a good sign, because that's kind of what you need to hold the knife in place. But yeah. So now we're going to go ahead and kind of like the baton. I had a stroke. Give me a minute. Huh. Anyways, just like the baton test, good lord, we're gonna go ahead and use it to try and cut this stick into smaller sticks. Shit. God damn it. And we're gonna use our mighty stick to make this stick smaller sticks. Okay, now we're gonna do this batoning test. We're gonna start out with the thin side, work our way to the thick side, and see how much damage we can cause on the edge. Because, why not? It's a torture test. We'll start here. Wow, it cut a piece of wood. That's a surprise. Now we're gonna go here. I'm moving. Well, kind of cut, kind of just broke it. Now we're gonna skip all that crap and come over here. It's a little windy, but the show must go on. Rubber handle does not mean shock resistant. Note for self. And it is surprisingly still kind of sharp. It's going in the wood, but it's not going through the wood. We might have hit ourselves a breaking point, because it is not going through now. Try this part of the edge. Nothing. Go further down the edge. Let's try not to hit our hand though, shall we? Magic. Anyways, now we're gonna go down to here. That looks. Actually, let's try this where there's a knot. Maybe that'll be a little more difficult. That rubber handle is starting to get a little bit more loosey-goosey. You don't want it. It's not good. Another. Hey. Magic. Little bastard trying to get away from me. We ain't done. We're gonna use this. You remember this? I know you do. Not like you don't remember it. Liars. Anyways. If you haven't noticed, this piece of wood has got some, we call it pitch. So it's really hard in some spots on this piece of wood. So we're gonna give her some hell, shall we? Juicy piece of wood. Yummy. That was my thumb. I'm supposed to hit the piece of wood, not my thumb. Damn it. Are you having fun? Because I'm having fun. If not, well, that sucks. I don't care. Well, it's a knife. Not a very good one, but it's a knife. So as you can see, we have a wonderful little torture contraption going on. We're gonna beat the shit out of that with that stick and see if it breaks. Wouldn't you know it? It fucking broke. Well, as you can see, it didn't like being hit with a very large stick, so a little bit broken. And if you also look at it right here, it's also a bit broken again. So, but it didn't come through the rubber, so I guess that's a win, right? If it broke in your hand, at least your hand would be safe-ish, I guess. The more you know. So, as we noticed, knife versus stick, apparently stick wins in this case. But I was looking at it a little bit further, and if you can see, well, if you have eyes, you can definitely see it. It's not a full tang. It has itself this little, like a rubber. So it looks like it's, that's definitely its weak spot. And I'm wondering if it has a couple more, because this little butt piece back here is also super loose. I just pushed it back in, but it is rubbing on the inside. So it's not very sturdy all the way through. Bad weak spot. Shit. Now we're going to do a bit of a dissection. We're going to cut into this rubber and see exactly what it looks like. And not cut our hand. It's still somewhat sharp, but still a pretty butter knife. Don't do this at home, kids. Not cut away from the body. I'm a professional. Just kidding. I'm not a professional. I'm just crazy. Alright, now we're getting in. Ooh. Look at this. Look at this beautiful piece of trash. Stubborn. Give me a minute. There it is. So yeah, look, there's another piece. So that's what your knife looks like, or a piece of it. Not a very strong tang for sure. And now there is a second or a third piece. We're going to try and get her out of there. I guess you can say this knife is good for one thing, and that's cutting itself open. That's about all it's used for. I haven't used anything. This hasn't done anything perfectly except for this. Piece of trash. Come here. Okay, there's your handle. Rubber handle. Good for any eraser, but nothing else. This is the back part of your knife. If you see, there's another hole, which was supposed to be, I'm guessing, for your lanyard. But let's just look at this knife for a second and realize that it is pretty funky shaped, shall we? That's interesting. But not a full solid tang all the way through. This is very cheap and very grainy. And as you can tell, it had its weak spots because that is where it broke on every single junction. Every time there was a nice little hole, that's where it broke. So all in all, I guess if you're going to go with a survival knife or a field knife, don't go with this one. It's trashy. It literally shattered into a bunch of pieces. It is not even very strong because it bent. You can't use it to cut firewood if you're in a situation where you needed firewood and you didn't have an axe because you didn't think before you went to the mountains. This one is not going to work for you. You need some better equipment. Don't go out there all willy-nilly and expect yourself to be safe. If you have something like this, stop shopping at Walmart. I don't know what to tell you. You buy trash, don't expect it to work perfectly every time. Now, we're going to sit here and talk about what we learned today. What did we learn today? Don't buy shit. You buy quality tools, not at Walmart. You want a good knife that's going to take care of you in the mountains? Don't go with this one. It's cheaply made, cheaply designed. The sheath is probably the only thing that's actually worth it, and it's still crap. Everything else, don't buy. So, if you're gonna go with a survival knife, do your research. Make sure you get something that does not have a weak tang. You want a full tang all the way through, not something weak and made out of aluminum at this point, because I think an aluminum knife would probably be better for you than this one. It's just a sharp piece of metal that doesn't help anybody with anything. So, this obviously brings us to our conclusion for the video, because what else am I going to do with this, because it is completely destroyed. So, I hope you learned something today, and hopefully as you go out and you venture into the wilderness, you don't have something cheap that if you try to stab or do anything with, it just breaks in your hand, because that's not going to help you at all. But that was the torture test, if you will, of our SOG field knife. If you liked this video and you want to see more of it, please leave a like and a comment. Doesn't matter if it's mean or nice. Comment's a comment, I'll read it. Subscribe to the channel, because we're gonna have some more of these coming on down the road. We're gonna have a lot more coming. Torture tests. We're gonna be looking at knives that we're not gonna torture test. Maybe. We'll see. But if you like this kind of content and you want to see more, just feel free to let me know. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.